Now, on Enough Said, with K-Fans Dan Barrero.
All these tweets are him loading up for the moment he's going to fire Mueller. And that's going to be, then dogs and cats will be living together.
Yes. And Justin Guard.
There were some good clips.
Yes.
Where there are none, Senator.
Yeah,
there are none. And then the time where he said also, I don't like going this fast. It makes me uncomfortable.
Enough Said.
Every Republican I know and every Democrat said that's the right thing to do. Everybody wants to play. So we're pleased to be here. It's a great event, and it's great for charity.
Enough Said returns. My name is Dan Barrero. Justin Guard with me, and Lori Fisher in the control room to get us going. Hi, Lori.
Hi, guys. The annual bipartisan congressional baseball game goes on in a tradition that goes back to 1909. This after a gunman opened fire at practice Wednesday morning, injuring GOP House Representative Steve Scalise and several others. The suspected shooter's social media page was filled with criticism of Republicans and the Trump administration. Dan?
The event, I guess I'm glad it happened, but am I allowed to be cynical about, I don't think the game goes on, sounds cool, and it sounds like, we really all learned a lesson and we're going to take a deep breath and back off, and we got to remember the important things that we're still all trying to serve the country and lower the tone of the rhetoric. I don't buy any of it. Nothing has changed. Nothing. I don't even know what has to happen to make it change, but as soon as the thing happened, everybody was going to their own corners. They were picking out their piece of the story that fit what their philosophical point of view or their particular story happens to be. So the idea that they went forward is nice. But I don't think it changes anything. And within days, we'll be back to doing what we're doing. I don't think anything's going to change.
Probably by the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, it actually did that day.
And then the obvious. You talk about the playbook of the responses and all the different things that go on sequentially. It's like when a tragedy happens, you plug and play different responses, and people make it political right away. And really, everything is political now in 2017, right? Because one of the complaints is, how can we politicize this right away? Because it's 2017, and everything gets politicized. Even in the world where we live, in the world of sports mostly. People say the downfall of ESPN is because they got too political, which I don't think either one of us buy.
And the number one question these days is what? If you win a championship, are you going to go to the White House?
That's on the table. That later.
We're going to get into that later as well.
How do you feel about blaming Trump for the discourse getting where it is? Because that is, you mentioned it, that is one of the things now that our rhetoric is too vicious. We're all yelling at each other all the time, and Trump is to blame for it.
I don't want to answer that yet, because I want us to concentrate on the act first.
Sure.
Because the act goes beyond the atmosphere. The moment you participate in this kind of wanton, murder was what he had in mind, and would have been a lot worse, as we know, if there hadn't been security there. Whatever you think you're standing for, this disturbed individual, you've lowered yourself exactly to the level of what you think you're attacking. Worse, actually, because this is worse than words.
True.
This is taking people out, defenseless people out, and I think we don't spend enough time on that. We try to nuance out of it and turn it into a lot of different issues. Where were you in 1968?
Where was I? Mm-hmm. I'm not quite sure where I was. Okay. I thought somewhere.
I was alive in 68, and I don't want to overstate what we got going on now, because I was old enough to remember 68. We had MLK assassinated, RFK, Robert Kennedy assassinated. We had the Democratic Convention turn into a riot. We had other riots in the streets. We don't have all of that yet, so I don't want to overstate it, but the level of hair trigger on the edge tension, it ain't that different. And what I think a lot of people are concerned about is it going to become a tit-for-tat thing, where now within days, I hope not, we're going to find somebody on the other end of the political spectrum going with okay, I'll show you about what you try to do to the Republicans.
And we do that verbally.
And we get into that kind of spiral.
We do that verbally, so you're right, it is a concern.
Enough said. Sorry, guys, we could keep going, but we have another topic. Attorney General Jeff Sessions defends himself before a Senate panel. He denies having an undisclosed meeting with Russia's ambassador to the U.S. Take a listen.
And the suggestion that I participated in any collusion, that I was aware of any collusion with the Russian government to hurt this country, which I have served with honor for 35 years, or to undermine the integrity of our democratic process, is an appalling and detestable lie.
Meanwhile, the Washington Post reports that a special counsel is now investigating President Trump for possible obstruction of justice. President Trump has tweeted many times in the last week about this, even talking about Twitter itself, saying, take a look here, after 7 months of investigations and committee hearings about my collusion with the Russians, nobody has been able to show any proof. Sad. The fake news media hates when I use what has turned out to be the very powerful social media, over 100 million people. I can go around them. Dan.
Well, the odd thing is, one of the tweets, too, he kind of is now confirmed, I think, that he is under investigation for obstruction.
Yes.
Right? He's sort of now confirmed that that's what has changed in this deal. Let's start with the Sessions part of this. I don't think they really dinged Sessions at all on the issue of collusion. I really don't.
Kind of an uneventful
hearing. For weeks, if not months. We ain't got a smoking gun there. Sorry. That's what makes the idea that he did make Trump look more vulnerable by not. I'm going with executive privilege. The conversations I had with him regarding the investigation, I'm not going there, made that part of it look more ominous. And that's what still is bizarre in my mind, is what are you stonewalling on if there are not the smoking guns? That's the bizarre nature of where we are here.
When you want to shake him, the president, and say there would be no investigation if you didn't fire Comey.
There would be no Mueller.
There wouldn't be a special counsel.
Right.
Like you said, there wouldn't be any Mueller. The tweet I loved from Friday was investigating for firing the FBI director by the person who told me to, talking about the attorney general. But that's not what you told Lester Holt 3 weeks ago, right? What did you specifically say?
Right.
Even though all the attorney generals, the regular one, the deputy one, they all were going to have your back a little bit. You were the one that took the extra step and said, no. What had nothing to do with them. I didn't like the Russia thing, so I fired him. That was all on you.
We're now at a point where the prediction is all these tweets are him loading up for the moment he's going to fire Mueller. And that's going to be crazy. Then dogs and cats will be living together at that point. I mean, there's no telling where we are at that juncture. And I can't say he's not capable of it, can you?
No.
You can't say he's not.
You can't say anything is impossible.
In his world,
no.
You can't.
I liked the moments from the Sessions hearing I liked were, because there were some good clips.
Yes.
Where there are none, Senator.
Yeah.
There are none. And then the time where he said also, I don't like going this fast. It makes me uncomfortable.
Did you like, by the way, this is an aside, but did you like that cabinet session with Trump where he allowed
I thought it was great.
Those who were in the room who work for him to give them the opportunity to
talk about how grateful they were?
For how wonderful it has been to work for him. Because I thought all of them were earnest.
Yes.
I thought all
Very
of them meant
sincere.
exactly what they said, and none of it was coerced.
Very similar to how Lori makes us start meetings before the show.
Very true.
Telling how much we appreciate her.
Thank you for listening. Enough said.
I don't think she's buying that.
Next up, the state's capital budget battle is going to court. Minnesota's legislature is suing the governor over his veto of legislative funding. Lawmakers say that veto is unconstitutional. No word on how fast this case will move, though, Dan.
No, my guess is, you'd like to think it wouldn't be glacial speeds, given what's at stake.
Yeah.
That you'd get whatever court's going to have to deal with.
Clock's
this
about to run out. Yeah.
Whatever Wisconsin Dells vacations we had planned, those scary rides, are off the table. I don't know how the governor doesn't lose this. Regardless of the poison pill part of it, I don't know how the governor wins this case on the basis of everybody that I've listened to who seems to have some legal instincts. Do you?
No, it's because there's checks and balances for a reason, and the pay structure is constitutionally protected, I think. I do think we need to introduce a new game either on the radio show or this TV show. Public figure, lawyered up or not lawyered up? Because between the federal government and now, how many public figures and public servants do we have right now where you read about them are retaining counsel, are bringing in an attorney? How often has this happened in our history, where federally and at the state level?
And the VP's got one now.
VP just recently. That's kind of what made me think
of it.
Well,
what I would say to the late, great Ron Rosenbaum when he was on this show is, guess what? The lawyers
win.
Win again. They always win. If you got a kid, train him to become an attorney.
Definitely. And I don't
because they're never going to run out of work.
I certainly don't like what the Republicans did trying to sneak this thing in like they did.
Right.
I understand. But the precedent with the governor I don't like is how he says, well, you're either going to do this or I'm dropping your funding.
Correct.
Whether you agree with him or not, whether you think It's not a good thing to set, right?
I think he's checkmated but doesn't want to admit it.
Yeah.
And so that's why he's forcing the issue, hoping, I guess, to get a ruling that I don't think most of the legal scholars think he could possibly get.
No.
Or else the whole thing kind of goes up. The whole checks and balances deal goes up in flames.
Yeah, he's supposed to have line item veto for a reason.
Yes.
I think we all understand that. But there should be some things that he can't touch, and this one I think he wanted.
And we're done.
Coming up next on Enough Said.
When you have as much talent as he does, you're going to be able to get away. You're going to get the benefit of the doubt from fans, from team, and probably media as well.
Well, here's the deal.
That I'm definitely thankful. I love this game, and I played with definitely a chip on my shoulder throughout my career. Some people I rubbed wrong, some people loved it. And so to the people that I rubbed wrong, man, that's just what I love to do.
Former Vikings player Randy Moss getting a big surprise. The team announced that he and Ahmad Rashad are 2017 Ring of Honor inductees. They will be inducted during the team's season opener against the Saints on Monday Night Football, September 11th. They join a lot of big names in this exclusive club. Justin.
Just to be clear, you're the one he rubbed wrong. I'm the one that loved it. Wouldn't you say?
Occasionally.
Is that a little bit too simplistic?
That's fine. I'm used to it.
But you had to work with him. You had to deal with him. I'm coming at it from. I was 15 years old when Randy Moss burst onto the scene.
You were a Rube fan.
I was a Rube fan with the 84 and the Zubas. I don't think I ever had Helga horns.
Just changing routes in the air.
Doing whatever he wanted.
Watching himself on the big screen.
Putting his arm up.
As he gathers the ball in.
I remember Red McCombs bought the team right around there. And I remember going to games before that, as do you, where all the sponsors would have to buy a bunch of tickets because there was going to be blackout rules. And all of a sudden, Randy shows up, Red shows up, and the thing is taken off, and it's never been the same since. No doubt he did rub some people the wrong way. And even as a fan, I think you come to a point where you go, okay, this is destructive. As talented as you are, when you're doing these things off the field, when you're squirting water bottles, when you're walking off on your team, most of the time we didn't care because
it's a combo platter
come
with Moss.
Sunday. Well, it's a perfect example of a guy who has, when you have as much talent as he does, you're going to be able to get away. You're going to get the benefit of the doubt from fans, from team, and probably media as well.
Well, here's the deal. You mentioned how he changed the franchise. I was here when my old newspaper, the Star-Tribune, tried to get fan interest going by putting a victory vest in newsprint and asking fans to cut it out of the Sunday paper,
I did that
at the game. That's how desperate. And I actually saw a couple of people who did, and then they took them off when they said, no one else is doing this. This is absurd. And that was the sort of stuff that there were concerts after preseason games that the Vikings, just desperate, tried stuff. He comes and the circus comes to town.
Yes.
There's no doubt that he transformed the entire franchise more than any other player, and that's what makes him fascinating. And what, in a sense, makes me surprised that I guess I haven't checked who was in the Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I guess I thought, well, oh yeah, Randy Moss already got to be in the Ring of Honor. But maybe because it went so poorly.
Well, and he's only been retired for about 5 years.
Yeah, that's probably some of it.
You do have to wait a little bit.
Well.
And they didn't want to do any when they were at the college stadium. They didn't do any this last year because it was all about the People's Stadium. So now they're trying to make up for it a little bit by putting a couple in there.
He eliminated, Randy Moss and the team in '98 also eliminated the bathroom break.
Yes.
If you're watching on TV, you can't take the chance. If the Vikings are going to get at the ball, that first play, he might burn a triple coverage and go 65 yards for a touchdown. He was absurd when he was good. He was also, though, as you point out rightly, destructive at times where some of us had to occasionally mention that to him. Rub him the wrong way.
He liked that.
Right?
He really appreciated that.
Enough said, except for, do you guys still have your Vikings Zubas?
I do.
He does.
Well, I think I do
I still
somewhere.
have my Vikings vest. I got my Vikings victory vest somewhere.
Yeah.
Next week, and we'll see what Patino says about your
Zubas, my outfit.
Next up, the Twins select 41 players in the 2017 MLB draft, breaking down the numbers: 21 pitchers, 9 infielders, 8 outfielders, 3 catchers.
Wow.
1 player is from Minnesota, Max Meyer from Woodbury High School. Dan?
Can you repeat all that?
I will in the graphics.
Lori went with the
one of us. Woodbury.
Angle.
It's our favorite player.
Baseball's got a problem because they see how popular and big the NFL draft is, and even the NBA draft.
For sure.
So over the last few years, they've decided, how can we remarket it and make it seem vital and big and crucial? And as they're doing it, they're actually sending, of course, the wrong message, which is they're asking fans to look at it and evaluate it the same way, which is impossible.
Yeah.
The draft goes, how many rounds?
40.
60, 70,
At least 40.
90?
Yeah.
And you're just as likely to get a good player in round 20 as you are in round 1. That said, we have the number 1 overall pick. We may have saved money to spend it later. I'm a big believer in take the guy you think is the best at the top, and apparently we didn't. Apparently we didn't because he wouldn't accept the amount of money we did. That's
the kid from Louisville you're talking about.
My philosophy is take the best player, worry about those other problems later, to be honest with you. But let's be honest, none of us know about any of these guys.
Well, that's the best point about it is, great example of how we all have to have an opinion on something right now, and you have to pick sides on whether you think the Twins did something right or the Twins did something wrong. And what do you think the over-under is? 3%? On people that are actually outside of the organization.
Probably high.
I tried to come up with a number, and I came up with 3, and you might be right. It might be a little bit high that actually knows who these guys are, actually knows if the strategy they employed.
Well, the guy you wanted, you hadn't heard about till last night I put him on the cover.
It was a good story. It was a lengthy profile.
I
feel like I learned a lot. I feel like I learned a lot from him. The other thing they have, now it's getting better because younger players are moving up the chain quicker.
True,
Correa has done it in Houston as an example. Even Buxton was here maybe a year or two before some people thought he should be, but they're climbing quicker. So whereas hockey even has the advantage of stashing guys and doing that, if the guy's number one pick, he's probably playing in the NHL the nenext year. That's the biggest problem baseball has, is a lot of times, unless it's a college pitcher or somebody that can help you right away, fans want that instant gratification of the guy coming up to help.
And you're, again, asking then, if you do take the high school guy, that also means they're harder to project. It's harder to project what you're going to do, and that's what makes this such a crapshoot, why the guy you take in round, we talked to Jack Morris the other day on the radio. Jack, I think, was a 5th-round choice.
He was.
Which is not a horrible round, but, then you look at Jack's career, and you go, now that was a different age in terms of maybe how carefully they're looking at people.
Enough said.
But, in all honesty,
we have no idea.
We have absolutely no idea, other than hope that they get a bunch of pitchers, because that's what they need.
And we have a guy from Woodbury.
Okay, you said
How
pitcher.
Good is that?
That's most important.
So let's talk about Irvin Santana. He hit 2 players who hit home runs off him earlier in Wednesday night's game against the Mariners. Santana was warned by umps, something he and team manager Paul Molitor disagreed with. He had hit only 2 other batters this year. Justin?
Yeah, he's got pretty good control. The thing I like about Irvin, besides the fact that he's their best pitcher and wins, is there's not a lot of nonsense with him.
Not histrionics. No histrionics.
The games move. He's not taking his hat off.
Not a drama king.
No, not usually. Paul Molitor called it circumstantial evidence. But as Ron Rosenbaum would say, after a while, when there's a lot of circumstantial evidence, it just becomes good.
Powerful
it just becomes good evidence, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it seems very coincidental that the 2 people that hit home runs off of you are the 2 that you decided to plug. If it was just one and you hit maybe another guy, I could maybe give you the benefit of the doubt, but not on this one.
You had a much more distinguished athletic career than me. 2 state titles at Edina High School.
Allegedly, yeah.
And so you tell me, what is that instinct about that you get bested, and instead of just accepting that and then trying to come back and beat the guy the next time, you say, you stood at the plate a 16th of a second too long, or you're diving in, I'm going to hit you the next time. Because it accentuates the inability he had to get the guy out.
I know.
And he's such a good pitcher. Why would he need that?
He should.
Unless you believe he didn't mean to, and I don't believe it.
Just because
his control's too good.
Yeah, he's been too good. To answer your question, I don't know. I've never understood it.
So you never try to, just repeatedly throw a racket at an opponent that you just lost to, or
not
anything?
usually. No, but I've always, to me, the most satisfying as a competitor is coming back around and letting I've always been a victors go the spoils guy. Act however you want. We talk about this with football teams that run up the score, football teams that celebrate.
How about the soccer team? Was there a soccer team in Spain?
A kids soccer team, 25-0.
25-0?
File that away. Yeah. Remember it. And
For
then
the
those 10 and 11-year-olds, they get older, they get better. Use it and beat them the next time. That was always my philosophy.
That was the late, great Jim Wacker.
Yes.
When he was here, I think the Gophers got edged by Penn State 56-3.
Yeah.
And supposedly in the locker room afterwards, he did the old,
remember it.
Let's remember this.
And what happened?
I think we got killed again the next time.
But when Mace got there, they beat him a couple of times.
Did.
So
That's
somebody
true.
in there remembered
I
it.
think that might have been 10 years later.
Probably, but a kid.
We have a lot to get to in the lightning round. The NCAA announced Louisville head coach Rick Pitino has been suspended for the first 5 ACC games next season. Justin?
Yeah, we knew something was going to come down. I think what they're most upset about, I guess, is the banner is coming down and some wins are vacated.
First time ever that a
champion
national champion would have had to, renounce.
I would say slap on the wrist, move on. You're in the Hall of Fame. You have the memories. You've got the money. You get to still coach. There's no more postseason ban. I understand it, but they had to do something.
Yeah, well, and the key word that was in the report, one of the folks who put the report together, repugnant. And that pretty much describes the scene in which apparently the handler who put this all together is handing a condom to a 16, 17-year-old kid.
A lot of bad details.
As he is about to go into a room
Next
with one
up.
of the women. It's disgusting.
A lot of bad details.
Yeah.
A blimp at the U.S. Open in Wisconsin goes down, and it's all caught on camera. Luckily, the pilot was able to parachute to safety, but it did cause a lot of commotion. Dan?
It was a bizarre,
Crazy video.
Absolutely. I'm still amazed that the pilot survived it.
The explosions happened on the ground while he's allegedly underneath the blimp.
Yeah, it was
amazing.
It was scary stuff. And for those, I mean, the old Goodyear blimp was huge. It used to be a very big deal at events. I don't know if it's as big as it was, but that was harrowing video.
Next topic. The Wild announces its 2017-2018 preseason schedule, plus the expansion draft is coming up. Justin?
That's the second part is the critical part.
You're excited.
Well, we're finally going to get some answers. All the speculation's done. Who's staying, who's going, who waived no move clauses, who did they protect? Could that be awkward if they didn't protect some people? Will they finally get some long-term deals with guys like Niederreiter and Granlund? It's going to be a busy week in the NHL.
I want a big deal. Even if it's going to end up haunting them.
Just to shake the tree?
I do want the tree
rattle the cage.
I do. I really, and allegedly they are doing a lot of talking. We'll see if it leads to
Back to
They have
golf.
money issues, though, that are making it tougher to do some of the deals.
Back to golf. Phil Mickelson drops out of the U.S. Open to go to his daughter's high school graduation. It's the
Greatest
only
dad
major
ever.
he hasn't won, Dan.
5
This is
runner-up
the
finishes, I think.
This is the most overrated, overhyped story in history, and we do this all the time with athletes. Athletes do stuff that people in everyday walks of life
Normal
do
people.
all the time without any fanfare, and we got to give them a trophy. We got to give them a commemorative print. So go ahead, start blubbering on behalf of Phil Mickelson.
And we're going to hear about it all weekend.
Yeah, I know.
There are questions surrounding if NBA champions, the Golden State Warriors, would go to the White House if invited, because some players and the coach have been critics of President Trump. Justin?
2017, it's going to be the question for every team that wins a championship. If the Lynx win another title this year, I'm sure that will come up right away.
They'll come up before they win the title.
It probably will. Probably preemptively have to ask them, and we're all taking attendance now. Who's there, who's not? Remember the Patriots controversy? The photo wasn't as big as when they won it with President Obama. That's how we measure things.
That's the deal. Nothing's going to change anytime soon.
Drama on and off camera for the reality show Bachelor in Paradise. I know Justin watches this one. Warner Brothers has stopped production of the summer series for some mysterious misconduct behind the scenes. The show was supposed to return this summer, guys.
Well, first of all, I think Lori's kind of unfairly.
Yeah, that's not good journalism. That's fake news.
Your integrity, because I don't think you watch, and I don't watch it, but I read about it.
Yeah.
And there is, look, who knows what took place? If something criminal happened, take care of it and go after the individual, as she apparently, the woman, claims. But there is something rather ironic about a show that bases all of really its success,
on
any of these shows,
tension.
on sexual tension and innuendo, and two people getting it on. That, then they're shocked and surprised that there's a chance that it might have gone over the line this time. It's too stunning for words, really.
Bachelor in Paradise.
Yeah. Well,
and last but not least, happy Father's Day. The National Retail Federation estimates that Americans will spend $15.5 billion on dads, the most ever. So happy Father's Day.
Million or billion?
Thanks, Lord. Billion? Million?
Billion?
All I know, I'm looking forward to Sunday then. I'm looking forward to Father's Day.
Here's all I care about. Is it more, I hope that they're spending more on Father's Day than they did on Mother's Day. We've earned it.
I think we have.
Don't you think?
I think it's the most underrated holiday in the
There's
world.
not any
Father's
question
Day.
about it.
I mean, every day is Mother's Day, really, when you think about it. It's about time they open their wallets for us.
We'll get the stats from Lori next week on what it is for Mother's Day, because it should
sent?
be more for us. It shouldn't even be close.
I think I tend to agree.
I'm trying to get letters.
As a father of 2 boys,
email.
I also think the more kids you have, the more you should get.
Well,
you should go up exponentially.
You're making that point painfully clear. And you probably any announcements you're about to make?
No, I don't think so. No, it'll be a tease for next week.
I'm all done.
Yeah,
It's
over for you.
Yeah, I got one.
I'm looking forward. We'll see what the kids come up with.